God rest her soul, always said I slept so soundly, I wouldn't wake up for the end of the world. As it turned out, she was right. This is the story of how I woke up one day to find myself surrounded by zombies. My name is Brad. I'm a 36-year-old construction worker in Legopolis. I'm also something of a Boy Scout as I like being prepared. But no way I was prepared for this. It was my day off, so I slept late. Eventually I got up, got dressed, and went to the kitchen and got a bachelor meal of coffee and a breakfast sandwich. Then I went to see what was on the idiot box. As it turned out, mainly idiots.
And everybody who disagrees with me is a commie.
Thank you for that balanced and fair political commentary, Red. You are watching Good Morning Legopolis, your morning news show. I'm Ted, the world news anchor. I'm here in the studio with co-anchor Ed.
Hello.
And weatherman Fred. Fred. Has anyone seen Fred?
We interrupt this broadcast to bring you some breaking news.
I have an important announcement.
Wait, why do you get to say it, and not me?
Because I've got this neato sign on my desk. Ahem. We have received a special report that the bodies of the dead are rising from their graves and attacking the living.
That is obviously fake news, Ed. Pure disinformation, which I personally would have never reported. The dead don't rise. Weatherman Fred. I see you have returned to your station. What do you make of? Weatherman Fred. What has happened to you?
A man bit me. I thought he was just a fan, but now I...
Stop.
Oh no. Weatherman Fred has turned undead and is eating Ted, our news anchor talking head. Break for commercial.
Well, you don't see that every day. I checked what was on the other channels. Scenes of disaster. Even worse scenes of disaster. Lego with Really and Cayenne with commercials. Obviously, it was the apocalypse. I stepped to the window to see what was going on outside. And kind of wished I hadn't. I saw Phil, my next-door neighbor. Well, ex-neighbor, now. I'll never get back all those things he borrowed from me. And with him was his Karen wife Karen. She feels, people like me ruin the neighborhood. Even though I was here before they started gentrifying the place. My vegan neighbors, the bandicoots, also appear to have gone zombie. They used to send me nasty letters whenever they smelled meat cooking, saying it made them sick. I told them that was Phil using the grill he'd borrowed from me. I didn't have time for outdoor barbecues. Or my grill either. But they never listened. B12 deficiency, perhaps. And there was also Mrs. Fenster, the neighborhood mean old lady. She had a bunch of yappy little dogs who would never shut up. Although to judge from the bite marks I could see on her zombie face, that wasn't a problem anymore. It looked like most of my neighborhood had been turned into zombies while I slept. But there was one person I didn't see among the zombies. Yolanda. Yolanda's a really nice single mom who lives down the street and works at the local supermarket. We've been dating and we seem to be really clicking. And her 12-year-old daughter Linda doesn't hate my guts for being her mother's boyfriend. If they weren't zombies, then I needed to find them before it was too late. As my dad would have said, simple as. Of course, Dad didn't have to deal with zombies. I don't think. At this point I did what I should have done earlier and started making calls. Yolanda, no answer. Linda, no answer. 911, no contact. Circuits overloaded. Some of my buddies, voicemail. Yolanda again, still no answer. My boss, click. Me, hello? Hello? Boss? That you? Maybe I'll call you back later. I took this to mean I joined the ranks of the unemployed. And since the Lord helps those who help themselves, I decided to bring out the serious stuff. As I said, I like to be prepared. And as part of that, I began watching the zombies and how they acted. While searching the internet and social media for news and information, people were posting video selfies of them and zombies. It seldom worked out well.
I know this is all a lie, and those are just actors pretending to be zombies as a trick. I'll go out and prove it. Hey you.
I'm going to go out there with my AR-15 rifle and kill all those commie zombies. Here, hold my beer. Oh!
Ah! This is the dawning of the zombie apocalypse. Zombie apocalypse. Apocalypse. Apocalypse.
I gave it a like, for effort if nothing else. But enough of that. It was time to move. What I'd seen outdoors and on the internet told me, these weren't apex zombies. They were slow, weak, clumsy, and most of all, they were pretty stupid. This guy had been trying to walk through this tree for the past few minutes. Others were walking into each other, tripping over curbs and hydrants, not having any idea what to do. Although I saw the bandicoots were staying on principle and eating plants. I hope this does not lead to zombie flora. Anyway, my plan. First, I put on protective gear, coveralls, hard hat, face mask, vest. I looked ridiculous. No matter. I added a few things and went on to step 2. I had roll-up security shutters over my windows in case of stuff. You know, storms, burglars, noisy neighbors, nuclear war. Stuff. All part of being prepared. Usually I left the shutters up because down, they made things dark inside. They were also noisy in use, which is why I hadn't rolled them down already and attracted the zombies. But now, that was exactly what I wanted to do while the power was still on. I hit the master switch and started all the shutters closing. The noise brought the zombies running. They came so fast, some of them got trampled. The zombies surrounded my house but couldn't get in. I needed them all in the back of my house, though, so I started jiggering the rear window shutters. The noise attracted them like moths to a flame. To mix metaphors, and soon the front was clear. I took my stuff, dashed to my garage, leaped into my truck, opened the door and backed out, all at warp speed. Then I hit the garage door close button as the zombies came running back and took off, roaring down the street at a blistering 5 miles an hour while laying on my horn and booming the radio. Naturally, the zombies came running after me. I drove around any in front and kept going until they were all behind me, and then I stopped, put it in reverse, and hit the gas. It was disturbing, but effective. My truck was big and heavy and had an extended reinforced rear bumper. It was like someone fired a cannonball into a bunch of bowling pins. A few more passes to get the ones I missed, and then I floored it to Yolanda's. Yolanda and Linda live in a big house that got chopped up into apartments. I parked out front and went in with weapons in hand and fear in my heart. Going warily, I entered the front hallway and froze. There was a figure at the top of the stairs. A woman. A zombie. Yolanda? I whispered as she started coming forward, and then she stepped into the light and I could breathe again. It wasn't Yolanda. She kept coming and I was raising my rifle when you don't really expect a slapstick pratfall in the middle of a zombie apocalypse, but there we were. I didn't even have to do anything. The fall had finished her. I said a quick prayer for the dead and ran up the stairs to Yolanda's apartment. Her door was open. So were the doors of the other apartments. This was scary, for all sorts of reasons. I walked down the hall, guns ready, but the other apartments were empty. I reached Yolanda's place. I swallowed. I steeled myself. I looked in. No bodies, no blood, no signs of struggle, no sounds. I inhaled and stepped inside. Yolanda? I whispered.
Brad?
There was a click. The bathroom door opened slightly, and then I got tackle-glomped by the 2 ladies in my life. They cried, and I cried, and I found out crying while you've got a full-face respirator mask on is really stupid because it fogs up. But never mind. I made sure they were all right, then I told them to go grab what they needed. We were leaving. They promptly peppered me with questions. Where were we going? How had I gotten there? What was going on? What to take? I swept the rooms to make sure they were clear of zombies while saying clothes, phones, prescriptions, anything you need. I'd answer the other questions later. Right now, we had to go. They packed in record time and were ready to go. I offered each a gun, for protection. Yolanda acted as if I'd offered her a snake. Linda was more enthusiastic. Yolanda objected, but Linda pointed out.
Mama. Zombies.
And really, that was kind of hard to argue with. I asked Linda if she'd ever handled a gun before. She said in video games. Peachy keen. I gave her a pistol and a quick rundown on how to use it, then started leading them out of the building. When we got to the stairway, I went down first to drag the dead zombie woman out of the way. That's when
Cuidado.
I looked around fast and saw a startling sight. Some zombies had come in the door behind me. They'd almost got me, but Yolanda had shouted a warning and Linda had opened fire. Boy, had she opened fire. 2 of the zombies were down with headshots. One was Swiss cheesed, and one was running off screaming, holding the hole where his ear had been. I thought you didn't know how to use a gun. I shouted at Linda.
Was that good?
She shouted back. Either she was pulling my leg, or she was a prodigy. Whatever, we had to get out. Now. I looked out the door. My pickup was clear. I looked down the street. A tidal wave of zombies, drawn by all the sounds, was headed our way. I hustled Linda and Yolanda out, tossed their luggage in the back while they were climbing in the cab, jumped in the seat, and burned rubber. I wanted to go back to my place. There was food, water, weapons, and safety there. But the zombie horde was between Yolanda's place and mine, so I had to detour. Detouring wasn't easy, though. The streets were full of zombies and abandoned cars. We had to go out of our way several times. And as part of that, we went through the parking lot of the supermarket where Yolanda worked, and it was grim. People had apparently run inside, and then zombies followed them. And now everyone inside was a zombie, and they weren't smart enough to get out. From there, we finally managed to get back to my house. Astonishingly, the bandicoots were still in their yard, peacefully munching on garden produce. They hadn't joined the other zombies chasing my truck earlier, and even waved as we drove past. Just when I thought things couldn't get weirder. Friendly zombies. Safe in the house, we gathered in the living room. The shutters made it dark, but we still had power, so we used the lights. I answered Yolanda and Linda's questions as best I could and explained what was going on. They wondered what we were going to do now, and I had to admit that was a good question. My house was safe, but for how long? Was there a better place to go? We needed information. We turned on the TV for news, but mostly what we saw was panicking people telling us not to panic. Calling people didn't work, but the internet was still up, just really slow. We all started surfing, trying to learn as much as we could. The government had no idea what was causing the zombies, but insisted they'd take care of it. Somehow, Yolanda, using a neighborhood app, found there were many people trapped in houses and apartments. They were scared and confused, and some needed food and medicine. And Linda, poking through social media, found the biggest news of all. The zombies had attacked in the morning, just as the kids were coming to school. Kids, parents, bus drivers, teachers, all of them had made it inside the school and sealed the doors. They were safe inside, but were trapped by crowds of zombies outside, and no way out. All of this was a problem. People's lives were in danger. I doubted the government was going to help, so what to do? Then I got a text. A couple of my friends were getting back to me. They said they were okay, and where they were. And then, I got an idea, a way to save everyone. I filled in my friends, and they were enthusiastic, so we made plans. Then I explained to Linda and Yolanda what I was going to do. They expressed reservations.
You're crazy.
Loco.
Not crazy or loco, I explained. Done right, there'd be little danger. The zombies would be eliminated, and people would be safe. Well, safer.
You're
crazy.
Loco.
It needed more discussion, but finally, I got them to come around. Tomorrow, since it was too late today, I and my friends would take care of the zombies. and the two of them would stay here, safe and sound. I insisted on it. I was firm, unmoving, adamant. The next morning, the three of us drove out together. This change in plans had come about because Yolanda is really good at arguing. I could see that if we got married, I'd be doing a lot of yes, dears. She'd pointed out that if I got my stupid self killed, she and Linda would be marooned at the house. No car, no way out, surrounded by zombies. While if they went with me, they could make a run for it in the truck if I died. Also, she was a Spanish speaker. She knew all about the supermarket. She could drive a stick shift like my truck. All things useful for my plan. She was an excellent and effective debater. And the rolling pin/blunt object she was waving at me as she talked added considerable weight to her words. With that matter resolved, we went on to other things. I had not forgotten how Linda had saved my life with headshots. I asked how she, a person who had never fired a real gun before, had such marksmanship. She said she didn't know. She just pointed the gun and squeezed the trigger. I took her upstairs, opened a back window, gave her another pistol, and told her to demonstrate. My poor garden gnome, our designated target on the other side of the yard, gave testimony as to her accuracy. I gave her a scoped rifle and told her to go for it. One well-placed shot, and my gnome was one with the universe. I had her engage in further target practice, and she was incredible. Whatever she aimed at, she hit. She was a better marksman than me, and I'd had years of practice and training. This had to have something to do with video games. Soon, Linda's shots drew the attention of the remaining zombies. Linda was all for gunning them down where they shambled. But I didn't want my backyard full of decaying zombie flesh. So we just closed the windows and left them to wander around out there. A bit later, we all sat down to a nice meal Yolanda had made, since she didn't think much of my cooking skills. And that's when the power went out. I was impressed it had stayed on as long as it had. Fortunately, as I said, I believe in being prepared. A meal by lantern light was actually quite nice. Even if all we heard on the radio was that it was the end of the world and we were all going to die, that was a bit of a downer. After dinner, we prepared for the next day and then went to bed. Linda and Yolanda slept in my upstairs guest room. So did I, in a sleeping bag, across the closed and locked bedroom door, with emergency supplies at hand. If the zombies got into the house and up the stairs, they'd have to go through me to get to Yolanda and Linda, and I wasn't going to make that easy. But nothing bad happened, and as I said, we left early the next day. Yolanda was driving so I could get out and handle the garage doors manually. And we were prepared for our outing during the zombie apocalypse. We had food, water, supplies, gas, and enough weapons and ammo to take on an army. As we left, I noticed the bandicoots were eating a tree. You had to admire their commitment. Although there wasn't much doubt, their eyes were bigger than their stomachs. Fortunately, the road we wanted to take was passable, and the zombies weren't active in the morning. So we had little problem getting to where we wanted to go. My construction site. As I said, I'm a construction worker here in Legopolis, and we're in the early stages of a new build in town. The site was large, securely fenced off, and full of equipment, which made it a great meeting place for my crew. These were the guys I'd texted. Most of them lived near the site and could get here easily. And now that we were all here, we were ready to go for it. The road was clear, so we took off. Me and some of my crew leading the way, the rest and Linda and Yolanda following in trucks. We were heading towards the school, but our noise drew the zombies. They came charging towards us, looking for a bite. Then, once they saw what was coming, stopped, and turned, and ran. That's because, even though these zombies were really stupid, they weren't stupid enough to go up against this. We were still in the setting up phase at our construction site, so plenty of heavy equipment we could use. Zombie horde versus bulldozers and earth movers? Unless they're super zombies, no contest, really. The zombies at the school couldn't run faster than we could drive. So it was over pretty quickly. Those that the rigs didn't get, Linda and the other armed fighters would shoot. As a result, all those trapped in the school were free to leave. There was a lot of relief and rejoicing, and Linda waved to her friends. But we weren't done. We left the school officials to figure out how to get everyone home and went on to our next target, the supermarket. As I mentioned, the supermarket was full of zombies. With the power out, the automatic doors wouldn't open, so they were stuck in there. We took care of the zombies in the parking lot, then pushed the cars around so the space around the store was clear. Then I carefully broke open the supermarket doors with my bulldozer blade. The zombies came out in a rush, right into and under the wheels of our rigs. It didn't take long to wipe out most of the zombies at the store, either. Although there were a few in the building who didn't come out, and we had to go in after them. Fortunately, the store had an emergency generator, and Yolanda had a key to it. We turned the power and lights on, then went in and started hunting. 2 of them had wandered into the freezer and were zombie sickles. We carted them out and just used a sledgehammer to break them up. And then there was this guy. How he managed this, I don't know. We just whacked him and wheeled him out of the store. The few remaining zombies were confused about the way out. All we had to do was stand at the end of the checkout lines, make noise, and shoot the zombies as they came. Once we had the store clear, we sent the big rigs to roam the streets. They'd push abandoned cars out of the way and run over zombies at the same time. It all went much easier than I expected. If these had been World War Z or 28 Day or Super Zombies, it would have been different, of course. But these guys? Nah. And by the end of the day, we had our section of town mostly zombie-free. In the days following, we solidified this. People emerged from hiding. We distributed food and medicine from the stores and kept people safe. The big rigs would wipe out major zombie incursions. And snipers, and yes, Linda was one of them occasionally. She loved it, would deal with solos. We did this for about a month, and then we didn't have to. In zombie movies, it's always the same. The military goes head-to-head with the zombie horde and loses. Badly. We rewrote the script, and instead of face-to-face, our military opened fire on the zombies from a distance with everything they had. Artillery, RPGs, chain guns, mortars, flamethrowers, machine guns. They bombed them from planes. And when things did get close, they ran over them in tanks. And by the time they were done, the zombies were beaten. A few got away, but that didn't matter. Because after all, the zombies weren't some new life form or supernatural phenomena. They were animate corpses, and they decayed and fell apart. And that was the end of the zombie apocalypse. A lot of people died, but a lot of people lived, too. And the survivors set about rebuilding. For some reason, those of us who helped out were regarded as heroes, and they made a big deal about us. What was really important, though, was I asked Yolanda to marry me, and she said yes. I asked Linda if our marriage was all right with her. She said as long as I made her mama happy, stayed a cool guy, and let her keep shooting my guns, she was fine. We shook on it. As days passed, there was so much rebuilding to do. I became wildly successful with my own business. So I came out of all this with a wonderful wife and stepdaughter, public acclaim, and business success. The zombie apocalypse was the end of the world for many, but the best thing that ever happened to me. And, God willing, it will never happen again. Once was more than enough. My neighbors Phil, Karen, and Mrs. Finster, unfortunately for them, they ran after my truck that first day. Even Phil. And when I power reversed through them, well, that was that. But once the zombies were gone, I realized I could get back all my stuff from Phil. Yolanda worried I was robbing the dead. No, I said, just the deadbeats. It took me 3 wheelbarrow trips to get everything back. And afterwards, we had a nice barbecue with my returned grills. As it turns out, eating a cell phone isn't a good idea if you're a zombie. Or even if you're not. We found the boss at the construction site before we liberated the school. The cell phone battery had exploded inside him, and he was a dead undead. He did have a habit of blowing his stack, but this time it was literal. We gave him a decent burial there, and later built a high-rise over him. I think he'd have liked that. My vegan neighbors have been oddballs all through this. As zombies, instead of brains, they've been eating grains, and vegetables, and even trees. And you know the old saying, you are what you eat? The bandicoots proved it true, even for zombies. Scientists have come from all over to look and say, that's impossible. Impossible or not, they're doing it. And they seem really happy. It's almost enough to make me consider going vegan. Almost.